Hey guys, LEGO Master 365 here, and welcome to episode 2 of building a model railway inside of a guitar case. Now, in the last episode, I walked you through the process of stripping out the inside of the guitar case and putting in a foam base layer with filler and all that stuff to give a good base layer for the track to go onto. Well, in this episode, we're going to take a major step forward and put down the track and ballast and get it all wired up and get trains running all in one video. Now, I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get straight into the video. Before I can begin laying down track, I need to put down a base layer of brown paint. This paint will hide any gaps in ballast or grass and make it look like dirt. Once the base layer dried, I added some darker gloss brown to look like patches of mud where it felt right. These probably won't be visible under the grass, but as another just in case. Once that paint dried, I nailed the points down to the foam. I'm doing the points first as these need to be where they are for the layout to work best. These smaller points have pre-drilled holes in the sleepers, but they're slightly smaller than the diameter of the Atlas track nails I'm using, so a hammer was used to fully get them down. Since I was using such a big hammer, I placed the flathead end of my screwdriver on the head of the nail and tapped it in. The Y point unfortunately didn't have any pre-drilled holes, so I got my pin vise out and made holes in the sleepers. These holes were the perfect diameter, so I didn't need to use the hammer and could just use my finger. Next was adding the powered track. I started by taking the Bachmann Easy Controller wire and stripping the track end to the bare wire. I then soldered it to the rails. I used a bit of heat shrink to help insulate the wires from each other. I then took my hot wire foam knife and carved a hole through the foam to a screw hole in the side of the case which the wire had already been fed through. This allowed me to bury the wire in the foam. Now let's give it a test. All I have to do is plug the red wire into a Bachmann controller, give the controller power, and look at that! We have track power! The train can't go far yet, but we'll fix that very soon. First, the path was filled with the same filler as before, albeit done with my hands this time. I then painted over this as well to hide it. With the power section now working, it's time to begin laying the main loop. I started from the station area and began making a loop. I brought the track around halfway and cut it here. I then took a new length of track and very carefully made it curve around from the point back to the other section. This was actually the second attempt. I was trying different track methods of cutting the track, and some methods worked better than others. The best results by far came from simply using a Dremel to cut the excess track. But here I'm using sprue cutters which were not designed for the job of cutting track. I finally got the track to connect, so let's see how it works. Controller's plugged back in, and power's back on. And yes, there it goes. Trains can now do laps around the track. Feeling confident, I went on and laid the rest of the track fairly smoothly. All the tracks from here on out are sidings, which just required cutting certain lengths of track. Here you can see I'm measuring this siding with the shed. I'll talk more about the buildings in the next video. With all the track laid down, let's see how trains cope with it. Alright, this siding's good. Let's try this one. Alright, and let's try the last one. Yes, they all work. Trains can now go anywhere on the layout. It's now time for the final step of this part, ballast. But before I do that, I went in and painted around all the points in gray as I'm going to ballast them separately from the main track. The ballast I'm using is standard Woodland Scenic's fine medium gray. This ballast is the perfect scale for OO and OO9. I dump a pile of the ballast along a portion of the track before spreading it with my finger. I then tap the rails with the end of a paintbrush. The vibrations knock the ballast off the top of the sleepers and make a nice flat top to the tracks. It took a ridiculous amount of time to get a perfect shoulder across the whole layout. The next part was gluing down the ballast. I made a mix of 50% scenic glue and 50% water with a drop of dish soap to break the surface tension. I'm using a plastic syringe to pick up the mixture and flood the ballast. But then it went horribly wrong. First, the glue ran into one of the points and got between the blades. Then, near the end of the refueling siding, the syringe jammed. I used too much force to unjam it and it shot glue right into the ballast, knocking it everywhere. I finished gluing down what I could, but I thought the layout was ruined. Thankfully, by the next day, the track was okay. All I had to do was pick ballast off of some spots on the rails and clean the tracks, and trains are running again. Now for the points. All I did for the points was carefully put glue and glaze glue between all the sleepers and... my cart is full. Well, I sprinkled the ballast into those areas. I then patched up some spots where the glue hadn't fully dried and ballast ran off. And with all that finally done, the track is complete. The layout has made some major steps forward in becoming a fully functioning model railway, and I can't wait to get it finished and for you guys to see the final result. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go down and consider clicking like and maybe subscribing to help the channel grow if you want to see more content like this. Now with all that out of the way, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.